boy, rain, go away. Luckily, I got my coat to defend you, but it's gonna rain all over me today. Man, bruh, bruh, bruh. I might have to cut this guy. I don't like this. It's raining, rain on me. Man, it is crazy. Raining hard. And I just got to doing my workout with Super Mama this morning. Man, I bet the audio, hopefully the mic is good. Every time I go on, what's going on, young? Every time I go on YouTube, the audio is horrible. StreamYard, there's a whole lot better. Yeah, man, I got my phone propped up there. I'm listening. What's going on? It's crazy. Like, when it's raining like now, man, that South said, what's going on with you? I don't kids, they back in school now. Kids, I seen your vacation down there in Florida. I was on the boat. But, get off here in a minute, I get too close to the job. I don't want to dox myself. Yeah, I'm actually up near Buford. I just left Atlanta when it was raining, but it kind of stopped. Now I'm up here at Buford. It's like they catching it now. But yeah, it's crazy. But I just want to get on real quick and just say for the most part, like right now, I still gotta go to work. I still gotta get out here in this rain, do my job, because I work outside. So it's got its advantages and it's got its disadvantages. Like the mail carrier, say the mail still gotta get delivered, Queen in the building. The mail still got to get delivered. The packages still got to go for me. That's what I do, delivery. So I got to get out there. I got to hit these deliveries. Make this money. It is what it is. But for the most part, though, a lot of times it comes with our finance, as well as I'm talking about right now. That knowledge. You got to know what you're doing. Jobs you pick, you gotta understand there's good times and there's bad times, and when the bad times come, you gotta be an equal opportunity. You gotta deal with both ends. A lot of times people neglect stuff, like this. Like, man, I get this job, it's perfect. But what if something happened? I was over there, Miss T with the T channel, and we was having a conversation, and the guy Broke Farmer talking to him, and he was saying basically when it come down to it, like if he was to he's never leaving his job, because he's like, I know the people. Even if I get a raise or more money to go other another job, I'm gonna have to deal with this other job, headache, all that. Why deal with that when I can go ahead and just deal with the problems I got now? I know these problems. I can deal with these problems. Same thing with your pocket. You got to be able to get to a point in which, if you know yourself, trash man, I'm gonna swipe it. You got to be able to, deal with these problems accordingly. And that's the thing with most people. I told them, people, man, people. But see, and deal with things accordingly, you got to know what you signed up for. And that's the thing with a lot of people. They don't even know what they signed up for, And whatever they signed up for, that's what they got to deal with it. go ahead and park real quick, drop a little spit, then I'm gonna get out of here because it's raining. I gotta get out here and get it. But for the most part, like I'm saying, is when you get into a situation, it's mainly up to you. You gotta take advantage of all the stuff that needs to be to increase, yourself, your surroundings. You gotta do what's good for your family. You gotta do what's good for you. A lot of times we sit here and try to be people pleasers, make everybody happy, at the job, at home, all this stuff. In the end, you sacrifice so much for everybody else. What about sacrificing stuff for yourself? Gold Professor, I always talk about the 9 laws of self-government, because it's pretty good to have a guideline that you can kind of structure things around your life. In the 9 laws of self-government, law number 3, applied selfishness. Sometimes you got to think about yourself. And, I said this all the time. That happy wife, happy life. If I'm not happy, how can I make my wife happy? So I'm actually miserable running this whole course of, my wife good. I got her to a degree, but I'm outside pain. I'm outside hurting. Like, it's so much stuff that we go through. We kind of bring it on ourselves. That's the thing, like I tell most of these guys when I be over there at the Manosphere talking with them, I can't relate to most of that stuff because I'm married and I've been married for years. But the point of it is, when most of those guys kind of start going at women and saying things, I'm showing them like, hey, dude, I'm married. I'm literally married. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I promote to let them know, like, I'm married, so all the stuff that you think is bad, it all boils down to choice, And, yeah, life is too short to try to give somebody else the pursuit of happiness all the time. It's a point in mind where you have to think about both parties. Think about yourself and think about your mate, because lo and behold, you spend so much time pleasing that person, you're neglecting yourself. And a lot of times that's the whole thing where a lot of people do that, Yeah, it's a give and take, and a lot of times you got to know who you married and govern, the situation with them so y'all can work on the same page. I always tell my wife, it's hard for me to work against you, so it's better for me to work with you, and I don't beat my chest like I'm the King Kong of the house, I always say my wife, I'm the president, she the vice president. She needs to know how to do certain things, know how to handle certain things, because if I'm not around and I can't handle stuff, she needs to step in. I told my wife, you need to learn how to shoot a gun because I'm not around. Who's going to protect you? And when I'm around, that's the least of your worries. And a lot of times we go through. Okay, cool. I'll be on there. I'll be looking for you, for your live, for your birthday. But a lot of times, as men, we get pushed into a corner where we got to do so much. I mean, just speaking from real men, like I was talking to a guy yesterday, and we was talking about the situation of I was telling them about this man that I seen a video where the woman was pushing him for paternity so much, and Erica, what's going on? So when it came down to it, the woman pushed him for paternity so much, the kid was 8. I think she's getting like 600, 800, whatever. But she kept pushing for more money because she found out he got a raise at the job. Then turned around when she did that. Ultimately, the guy went and got a DNA test and found out the kid wasn't his. And so me and my wife was having a conversation that me and my coworker had it earlier that day. I told the coworker, he was like, you know, a man, he'll sit there and still do something for that child. I said, yeah. I said, but then you gotta understand, as a man, you don't pour so much into this child. It's kind of hard for you to walk away, but to spite that woman, you won't have nothing to do with that child to a degree, and it's kind of hard that you in this situation because you didn't ask to be here. That's why I think paternity should be a thing. And like when the child gets born, and me and my wife had that discussion because I know one of my friends, he was married at the time and he got a paternity test. And the women and the nurses, they were all going crazy, like looking at him file and stuff. But at the same time, he was like, how many of you women are married? And how many of you women have, significant others or boyfriends? But is that the only one? And he said one or two of them dropped their head. So they just let him know that, hey, don't get mad at me, because if you messing with a dude on the side, 9 times out of 10, that could be his baby. Not saying that his wife cheat, but you never know. Even when I had my twins, the lady asked me, did I want a paternity test? And I just looked at her. And I'm like, I could get one. But I know the kids are mine, but I could get one. It wouldn't hurt nothing. So my wife was like, wow, that's crazy. Why would you get a paternity test? I was like, why not? She was like, what, you think the kids aren't yours? And I say, the question is, if I get one and they wasn't mine, then what? I say, because ultimately, if a dude gets a paternity test, and I told her, she was like, well, that's not an embarrassing thing. That's not. I was like, you were giving me reasons why a person shouldn't, but what are the reasons why a person should get a test? And that kind of pushed that out of people's head. And plus, you got to understand, that paternity, that is crazy. It's like so much money in the fees of child support. That'll lower, basically, for the most part, a lot of the fees and stuff from child support and all this stuff is funding most of these governments out here. Yeah, and that's crazy too. With the DNA test, without a DNA, I'm not like, that's why I'm like, right now I always tell myself I'm glad I'm married. I tell my son to watch himself, because it's getting too crazy out here. Even like the situation with the guy in Jamaica, he had 6 kids, and the lady used to hound him, going to work, messing with him all the time. And come to find out, all 6 of the kids wasn't his. So he ended up, as they gotta be PG on YouTube, he deleted her for having those 6 kids that wasn't his. And it was a sad situation. Even my wife was like, man, that's bad. But she was like, I can understand where he comes from. Like, you done poured your heart into these kids, let alone y'all broke up and you constantly at my job trying to get me fired over some kids that's not mine. And majority of the time, you hope and wish, like, as women, Erica, let me give you a wrench. I just realized I seen you got that gray. I'm like, what is the gray down there for? But most of the time, you hope and wish that when you get the kid, that this kid is that guy kid, and you wasn't messing around with somebody else and, got a baby by them. I always think I say this, men cheat for a reason. And I do say men because a male will just cheat just because, it's a difference between a man and a male, And the thing crazy about that is, when it comes down to it, a lot of times, all you gotta do when your child turns 17, just to sit there and I mean, my son, I basically talked to him so much. I said, look, you don't want no kids before marriage. That's what my wife and me and her was talking. She was like, you ain't got no kids. You 25, no kids. I was like, I didn't want kids. I think it was like 24 when we met. I was like, I didn't want kids. I was like, I seen how my uncles went through a lot of this stuff. That's why I always, tell guys that, just want to mess around and have sex. It's cool. You can do that whatever floats your boat. But at the same time, I told a lot of my friends and stuff like that, I was like, if you want to get married, you can't be just out here wilding with women like that. If you want to get married, you got to sit here and look at women and entertain them that you want to get married to. Stop with all this, man. I'm this and I'm like, nah. Go find a woman that you want to marry and keep it 100. We hear all the time about the good of marriage, but the point of it is, who's showing and pushing these young kids about good of marriage? That was my thing. I wanted to get married young because I wanted to raise my kids. I don't want to be this old fart, can't play with my kids and do the same things. I had a coworker. He had his son when he was 65, 55, and 52. He had his son when he was 52. And at 65, when I met his kid, he was like 13. The dude was big as a house. He didn't play with the kid or nothing. He said, I think when the kid was first born, you do stuff with him. But he got so old, he's like, man, I got to save my strength for work. And I'm like, dang, dude. Even when me marrying my wife, I tell her all the time, I was like, I wanted a family. I had that intact family. I seen that around me. Even my uncles and all of them, they told me before I married my wife, they was like, boy, you doing a good thing. Finding you one woman. And I wish I would have did that when I was young. I got the game from playing around and it's cool. But then it gets to a point where, like, how good is playing around? Like, how good is me out here, playing the field? How's it benefiting me long term? So a lot of times the old schools, they'll tell you about, how fun it is, but they don't tell you the repercussions behind that. Even the women, that whole thing that the feminist crap they be pushing and stuff for these young girls. You don't need a man, get your money together, girl, and this and that. It comes with a cost, because when you get older, when you try to look that, what is that called? Hot girl summer, now that stuff. But the point I'm trying to make, when you get older and you try to look for a man, it's like season. Season, when fruit's in season, it sells like crazy, But when it goes out of season, typically people will only buy that fruit if they really like it, because at the peak season, that's the best time to get that fruit. And, the time, we waste listening to our elders that try to push us with bad narratives. I told my wife, I was having a conversation with her, and I was telling her, I was like, this lady was telling her some stuff, and, I kind of overheard it, and I was like, we listened to this Pastor Bronner, and I told her, I say, what Pastor Bronner always say? Look at this person's lifestyle and look at their situation. Implement it. Anything that they tell you, see how it's implemented in their life, and then go off that. Like, prime example, I was talking to a family member, and the dude was trying to, deal with this woman. And this woman, she was married to her husband. And I was like, oh, okay, that's her second husband, this and that. And my boy was telling me, he was like, nah, her mom been married 5 times, and she never been married, but she got like 2 or 3 different baby daddies. I was like, if you kind of see she's mimicking her mom, but without the marriage. I'm like, do you really want that for your life? Because The stuff you going through is kind of what her mom and the husband is going through now, which is crazy, you know. And I mean, it's to a degree like so many people we have these issues within, like time and time again, bad information gets spilled over. You know, you have the uncle that's, boy, I'm a player for life. But then when he get old and lonely, he gets complaining. Nobody's there for him. That stuff, it matters. Even with the auntie, I ain't gonna let no man tell me what to do. I make the money, I run the house, and if a man don't like it, he can get out. And then she's in the nursing home, was like, man, I wasted my years. You know, but the message is too late then. The message is generally too late by the time they try to spread to the youth. It's too late. You know. Prime example, what was that video I seen? How did it go? I think it was a lady, she had divorced her husband. I think it went around for a minute. She had divorced her husband because she was making a lot of money and everything was all good. Let's go with the Tia Mallory thing. How she left her husband and thought everything was going to be good. Dudes ain't knocking at her door like that. Lala Anthony, how she left and she was saying how dudes, getting at her all the time. And that's what I was saying earlier. A lot of dudes will have sex, but will they commit to a relationship? That's the biggest thing, like I was talking about earlier about the cheating aspect. And when I say men versus males will hit anything walking, I tell my wife all the time, there's two type of dudes. There's a man that cheats for a reason, then there's a man that's a dog. And generally a dog is going to be a dog. He's going to lay, he's going to chase his tail, all that stuff. Now, a man, cheating for a reason, not saying that it's right, but to a degree, he have had a conversation with his wife. He's not feeling the love, sex and all that stuff. And, I hear a lot of times when women talk about this sex thing and like, oh, y'all men are just so sex deviants. I'm like, sex is a part of marriage. If you don't want to have sex, don't get married. Especially to a person that before marriage and y'all are sexually active and y'all are having sex like that. Like, I don't understand that. Even to the point of you scheduling sex or to a degree working on that, we don't have these conversations, especially with the kids. They don't have these conversations at all. And that's the biggest issue with a lot. We don't have, like, my young boys, I know I told them a little too early, but they would ask me about stuff about sex, and these boys are 12 now. They ask me stuff about sex, they ask me stuff about Santa Claus. I tell them, hey, Santa, and it was funny because I found a letter from one of my kids wrote as a project for the teacher. And asking, they wrote like, I think it was like kindergarten or pre-K, when they was like, what do you want for, can't sign for the, I said, hold on, like men messing up. The thing is, a lot of times it's from two angles. Like most of the time when a man messes up, especially in a situation, they don't want to admit at fault for anything. What's going on? And see, a lot of times they just don't want to admit fault. If I've done something wrong, hey, I gotta face the music. I'm not gonna throw my wife up under the bus and kind of say, well, you put yourself in this situation by doing this or doing that. I will generally, I told my wife, I said, before I cheat on you, I would literally tell you because it's got to that point. You know, if the sex is not there, the communication is not there, I'm not feeling the love. You know, that's a whole part of marriage, the communication, where a lot of times it falls on deaf ear. I look at this podcast where the couple was gonna get a divorce because the wife just jumped up one day and just left the house. She said, "Come get these kids now, I'm gone," and she left for a whole week. The guy was like, "Man, nah, you ain't finna do that to me." He was going crazy ham, and at the end of the day, he was thinking about himself and not even understanding that his wife teaches the kids at home. And so the thing is, she's always around the kids. They have a podcast where the podcast as well with the kids. And she's all Believe in Family. I think that's the name of the podcast. But it's spelled Leaf, BELEAF, Belief in Family. I think that's the name of the podcast. But they were about to get a divorce because it was crazy. She was so overwhelmed by being around the kids all the time. And, you know, him as the man, he's just working. They might mess around or something. Like, he just going through his normal thing because he got things on his head he got to deal with. He got to make sure the podcast straight. He got to deal with his job. He got to make sure, you know, certain bills are paid, or make sure his wife on top of the bills. You know, a lot of times as men, we carry a lot of stuff on our shoulders, and we're not sitting here, you know, kind of shifting. What's going on? What's going on? Haven't seen like the issue of us really negotiating, like, how you doing today? And it's crazy that my son, he does this to my wife all the time. It is like he will sit there and say, "Mom, like, how you doing? You doing good? How you feel?" And so my wife, she generally comes to me now, asks me how I feel. You know, I kind of shrug it because I'm not really that type of emotional guy. I'll talk, I'll work through, but I'm not that type of emotional guy. My wife, she's very emotional. She have her little moods of depression and stuff like that. And a lot of times I tell her, your depression or stuff that you deal with, it mainly comes from you just, not doing things in life that you want to do. And I'm like, what's stopping you? I told her, you have a great husband that'll sit here and talk with you and listen to you. But it gets to a point to where, you kind of want to hold things in, or do things for yourself, or kind of work on things by yourself. And then when all else fails, you cry for help. And a lot of times I tell her that's too late. Don't sit here and fail 10 times and then on the 11th attempt call me. Let's work on it on the first attempt to where we can get things situated. And a lot of times, even with the communication, we gotta, it's like we're not talking about this. Sex, like I said, it's a part of marriage. It's something that has to be discussed before marriage. If you like it more, you like it less, you got to talk about that. Negotiate some things. Same with the bills and everything else. Like the whole 50-50 thing don't work for most people. I'm a firm believer of everybody bringing things to the table. And it's crazy because my wife paid portions of the bill, I pay portions of the bills. And the thing of it was, I never really look at how much she pay on things. I'm like, dang, she kind of pay more than me, But I don't really, I wasn't really looking at all the other stuff I had behind my bills, until I started paying I will pay for all the trips and stuff like that. And now putting things in perspective, I was like, dang, we pretty much have the same pay on bills. So I'm like, we should be working on this or working on that more. And, to a degree, The 50-50 thing, in my opinion, it works because it relieves, like if you have money, I have money. I pay half on some bills, you pay half on some bills, or you pay majority of this bills, I pay majority of this bills. Whatever money you have left, that's your money for this, that's your money for that. If you need extra money, it's never a problem. Tamika, how you doing? It's never a problem for me to give my wife money. And it's never a problem for my wife to give me money. Because sometimes, look, if I ain't got it, I ain't got it. I'm not ashamed as a man to say, oh baby, can I get $100 or can I get this or can you do this? People go through situations, but when you are generally up within your finance. You know, when it comes to a lot of situations we have, you know, a lot of people too ashamed to actually ask for help. A lot of people too ashamed to, actually have the situation to where I'm gonna have to talk it out with somebody else besides the significant other. But I gotta talk to them first, let them know I can't communicate with you. So that's why I have to go outside the house. And that's always gonna be a thing to a lot of people not really having this whole functioning relationship thing because we don't communicate well. Like I said, that even from down to the bills, we need to have that conversation. Me and my wife, and I always tell this story, we started off generally as friends. When I first met her, my cousin wanted to go cheap for her birthday, and my birthday is around the same. And it's funny that too, because I ended up getting married the day after my wife's birthday. So I can remember our anniversary. It's funny, but that's how I did it. But we started off as friends, and she already had her kids. I seen how the way she dealt with her kids, and I was like, man, like this the lottery ticket. In my opinion, I was like, man, I got a woman that knows how to deal with kids. She has a good heart. She has a good head on her shoulder. She know. I was like, hey, you kind of made a bad decision by messing with this dude. And he got 2 kids by him, and he wasn't really about nothing. But that's the thing with her. She got a good heart. She gave the guy a second chance, and the dude screwed up the second chance when they had the second kid. And she was just like, I'm done with him. Even her family, she was, pushed by her family to still deal with the guy because they already got a kid together, so they need to try to make it work. And some people take advantage of people with, a kind heart. Just plain and simple. Take advantage. If they can do something to make the situation better in their part, they're going to do it. And it's crazy how we go through these back and forth situations with a lot of people, and you know that you shouldn't even be in there. You should. It's even situations. You should have never, dealt with that person. But it's the whole thing of, man, I just want to be with somebody. Man, like, I couldn't do that. I would be alone by myself before I be with somebody, just to be with somebody and take a L. Because, that was my biggest thing when I always tell guys, I'm like, just wildly having sex with random women, not knowing. My whole thing was, what if I get this woman pregnant? Even though I did wear condoms and, I was real safe, but condoms break. Condoms are not 100% all the time. And that was my thing. Like, if I ever get a crazy girl as my baby mama, I kind of wanted that because, sex was that important to, bring a child in for 18 years to a woman I don't know or don't want to deal with or do know, but just don't like that. So that was one of the things that I was, big on within the relationship is dealing with a person I can deal with, and it was crazy. Like, and when it comes down to it, y'all got it's a point of really working with each other. Me and my wife been together, like we ended up getting married a year after we met. And it was crazy because uh I sit there, cool, young Rez. I'll sit there and I knew what I wanted, and she was pretty much a good woman, But a lot of times with some people, it's growing pains with them. It's really growing pains with them, and then you kind of work through things. I see it with some family members. They go through hell and hot water with that person, and just like they get so comfortable to the point that they don't want to leave, man. And it's crazy. Like over time, like oof, it's like so much you put into a relationship. It's like for years you've been with that person. Y'all should be at a balance or somewhat, meeting with on the same playing field. And it's kind of hard, steady going through, situation time and time again. It's like dealing with a child. You should know better. You should know me in the relationship. We've been working through, going through for so many years. Solid G, get you a wrench. Oh yeah, I think I forgot somebody else up here to get a wrench. Tree garden wrench. Hold on, did he get a wrench? Yes, yeah, but it comes a time where the communication is lost because y'all not having these talks. Sitting down, like hey, sometimes my wife just pulled me to the side and told me just straight up, like, you gotta slow down. Like I wasn't partying, but I used to drink heavy and stuff, and cause I used to wild out. Like that was my time of having fun, was going out drinking, and my wife was like, you need to slow down. And I didn't want to listen to her. I'm like, man, I'm grown. I do what I want to do. But then one day I sat down and I was talking to my uncle. He was saying how, he messed up his liver. Then I had another friend say that they can't really drink like that. And it put me to a mindset to where I'm sitting up here like, dang, she right. And I just, had to suck it up, come down with it and be like, yeah, you right. I need to slow down on my drinking. I need to, a lot of times be there for my boys. I shout out to Gold Professor. Me and him talk about this a lot. We talk offline, with me being there for my boys, I got to stay the course and complete the mission, because that's one of my biggest fears. That's why I talk so much about life insurance. My dad passed when I was like 3. My mom passed when I was 6. So that structure within the main family, it was still there, but it went docile because the connection wasn't there no more. So I had to grab that connection, from somebody else. And I had to, have people to guide me along that way. But the teachings never left from which my mom and dad taught me when I was young. And it was crazy because I can remember so much about when I was young, things that happened. My sister, my older sister, my half sister, she would always say, how do you remember that? That's crazy. Like, you was like 4 or 5 when that happened with your mom and this and that. How you remember that? I was like, I don't know. It's just, I guess a tragic situation. I retained so much knowledge of, or information when I was young. Because my mom, she was the one that told me that when I was a little kid. I probably was probably like 5 years old. And my mom told me, she said, if a girl hit you, you hit her back. Because a girl will kill you just like a man will kill you if you give her that, she would. She said, I ain't say, go crazy on her, but you need to hit her and let her know don't touch you. And, that was the talk that I talked with my boys and my wife. I told my wife, I said, I don't hit women, but I don't let women hit at me. So if we get into a situation, we can talk all the time. And I always say this about me and my wife used to talk. She used to yell at me, throw her hands in the air. And I used to tell her, I'm like, we grown. Why can't we talk? We two grown adults. Why we gotta throw hands like we about to swing on each other Cause sometimes she get closer. I'm like, dang, she gonna hit me or something. But the point of it was a learned behavior. She seen other people do it, maybe her mom and dad, to the point where with me, I wasn't going for that. Like, nah, we not doing that. Like, nah. It comes a point to where you gotta talk up and speak up for yourself. You the best lawyer in your life. Nobody else is gonna come to your defense, to a degree but you. So you gotta speak up. If you don't like situations in your life, you gotta talk it out. Hey, I don't like this. What's going on? How we gonna handle this? How we gonna work through this in our marriage? How we gonna work through this before we get married? I seen that foolish video where the dude cheated on a girl about a month prior to or whatever, and then proposed to her in the restaurant and got slapped. You cheated, but then you try to, propose to her to make it right. She ain't gonna want to deal with. I mean, honestly, that was the stupidest thing that dude did. She ain't gonna want to deal with you after you done cheated, then came back and tried to make amends by marrying. Most women would go for that in a heartbeat. But to a degree, you got a real woman versus, some type of lady that just gonna take anything. Because it's visuals speak. I'm gonna have a big wedding, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And what I say about the males that do that, when a male go and does something like marry you after he cheated, he's still gonna cheat. I mean, he a male. That's what he do. He gonna give you the ring and still do what he do. But if you choose to deal with that, you need to break down some rules and hey, govern yourself accordingly. Like, I didn't like that situation, how that lady, karma. I didn't like how the situation with a lady, she was speaking up to her man where she caught a man cheating, and she was like, we both gonna cheat. We both gonna cheat. You gonna be messing around with your person, I'm gonna mess around with my person because we got a daughter together. I ain't going nowhere. I want my daughter to have her father. So what we gonna do is we both gonna cheat. We both gonna stay in this relationship, and we gonna do our thing, and we gonna come back together. I'm like, man, that's kind of. I always say this about that polygamy and open marriages and all that stuff. I got a rough time dealing with one woman. I don't want 2, 3, whatever women negotiating my time with them. I already got a hard time dealing with the one I got right now. Then I got to bring another one in the mix. Then I got to learn all your vibes. It's crazy. I got to go through this whole process of dealing with another woman, knowing her, knowing how she want things. Why can't I just stay with this one woman and we work with each other and deal? Like, that's the mindset I have. My wife have that same mindset. That's why it works good for our family. My wife had the same mindset, so it's good for our family. That's how we can, work things. But if you don't have that same mindset as that person, what's stopping y'all from getting on the same page? What's stopping y'all from having talks of understandings like, look, you hurting me, you doing this. Hey, let's work something out. Because at the same time, if nobody ain't going nowhere, it need to be some boundaries and some rules set. I mean, it's unhealthy to go through like struggles in life, especially like my cousin, me and him, we talk, and he say, I got to deal with the world. I don't need to come home and deal with my house too. I don't need to deal with my wife. If I got to deal with the world, Frugal Mama was gonna, if I got to deal with the world, I don't need to come home and deal with the struggles in my house as well. I need to make sure that my house is my peace. I can't sit here and my house be somewhere where I hear these things about a lot of guys who married. They'll work extra hours so they won't go home. And one dude, he said he used to sit in the car for about 2-3 hours before he even went inside from work. And I'm like, dang, is it that bad? Is that bad? I'm like, it gets to that point where Like, how can I actually deal with this? Cause I got, I can't be around my my wife. I gotta work extra hours. Like I'm running myself hard to try to be that be that way. I'm like literally like even the woman too on her side. You know, she get to a point she don't want to clean the house. She don't like, and the man's, getting at her about that. But she's like, look, you got me so destroyed about stuff in the house. I don't think this house is a priority anymore. That's the last thing on her mind. Same thing, with other situations. The last thing on your mind you thinking about is fulfilling certain things when things ain't right in your head. You know, that's like situations where I see where people black out and next thing you know they wake up in jail. Yeah, you got attempted murder or you did this and that. I mean, for instance, that same lady that kind of spazzed out on her husband that was touching them kids. She had a nursery, and her husband was a police officer, sheriff or whatever, did some work, but he was touching on some kids, and that was the number one thing that her and her husband always talked about was protecting the kids. And the guy went and dealt with one or two of the kids, or maybe even more. She spazzed out. She went there with the intention to check him and possibly kill. And I mean, it was planned out because, she felt like, betrayed. And I kind of felt her in that moment because we talked about helping the community. We talked about doing this. And here you go out here doing the number one thing we said that we was going to fight people against. And I seen in that instant where, man, like that dude, he took a big L. Even for him to getting shot and didn't get killed and her going to jail for attempted murder, that's crazy. But then you have this other thing with OJ now coming out about this football player for the Raiders that killed the lady and her dog back, I think it was like 2 years ago or no, a year ago or something, out in Vegas for the Vegas Raiders. The guy was going down the street in a fast car, blew the car up or whatever, killed the lady and the dog. And I think he got less than a year or something. I mean, I think he got, less than 10 years? But, they was trying to shoot OJ in the foot, take him down. Like, and we all knew what they was getting at him for because of the situation with Nicole. But I'm like, man, it gets rough. Like, that's why I keep saying communicate, have the talk. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, and to a degree, we got to live up to some type of purpose, morals, and principles. But overall, we got to work for the greater good. And I'm going to go on and get off of here. But, say the least, have the conversation. If it don't work well, at least you initiate something to start, because I do say as men, we do get stubborn. We kind of get into a situation to where, it's my way or the highway. But also, you got to look at it from this standpoint. Most of the time, we try to make that way because we're the ones on the road trying to guide that highway to go the right way. I had a friend, he was telling his wife, he said, if I need you to go this and do this and that, do that. And she was like, well, I'm not incompetent. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. He was like, look, if I do something wrong, I can correct it on the second time. If I let you do it, you do something wrong, then I got to correct you. Then if I correct you and it's wrong, then I got to do it a third time. So let me be at fault and then everything will be okay. I get it from that standpoint. Because there's certain things that, women are capable of doing better than men. And there's certain things that men are capable of doing better than women. And also, it goes to that situation. Because I might be a man that's good in finances and my wife suck in finance. But then in another relationship, the woman, she's better in finance and the man, he sucks in finance. So it's always to a point where that balance to where it's a case-by-case study. What works in my house might not work for your house. But the conversation starts everything. That's the whole thing with communication. We gotta have this talk. A lot of people are scared to have the talks. I mean, to a point, sometimes you can get something started by just trying to get somebody to open up and have a conversation. I deal with my wife a lot of times like this to get her to understand where I'm coming from, that I'm here to help her, protect her, but she got to be available to accept, you know, the, I'm open for it, and a lot of people, they not hip to that because, you know, as loners, a lot of women still feel like they need to do it by themselves, even in marriage. I've seen this one lady was talking. I know I got to get out of here too, man. But I seen this one lady. She was talking about this, how she expressed how she was always the leader in a relationship. Anytime she got in a relationship, she was the leader in that. But the point of it was a choice. Everybody has a choice to make in every relationship. If I deal with a woman that treats me wrong, that was my choice. I chose to be with that woman. I chose to have a kid with her. I chose to marry her. Now I'm reneging on my choices because I got a little more knowledgeable and I got a little more wiser on how to pick a perfect mate, so-called, as they say. Miss V was going on. And to pick a perfect mate, it comes with what? Time and knowledge. A lot of us don't have that, growing up being young. My thing is, I didn't have no whole bucket list. I want a woman. My wife, she laughs at me all the time and she tells me this. She said, we had conversations and you told me you like tall, thick women and I'm short and slim. She said, I got a little weight on me now, but when we first got together, my weight was low. And I told her, she was like, why did you get with me? I say, the heart want what the heart want. I can say I like this type of woman, but if this woman presents herself in a way that I deem like, man, this is the package. I don't have the 50-50, or I can have 70-30. She got 30%, but that 30% might be a lot. In most cases, like everything on my list, she got 30% of my list. Can I deal with that? That's the balance in the marriage. Like all these, like the whole thing with the Kevin Samuels, and I'm gonna say this real quick. I gotta get off of here. I gotta go to work. That whole high value, man, it was good to a standpoint because it pushed men to make more money, and it told men to do certain things, but it was a whole thing to where a lot of men shame other men for leading with their wallet. And that's all that situation was. Leading with your wallet. Yeah, I mean, that's within your culture. I love my black women. I'm always going to love my black women, It just so happened my wife, she's Jamaican, But at the same time, that I wanted my kids to be black. I wanted my kids to look like me. So that was my standpoint of always. I never discriminated really on any women, but as a preference, it was always for my kids to, look like me. But, having the conversation and dealing with people, it's always an issue because it's a back and forth push with us trying to figure out what we really want, because we will want something and then go for something else. Oh, back to Kevin thing. Let me be real quick about that. That Kevin Samuel thing, they kind of focus more on men who lead with their wallet. Is crazy. But essentially, that's what I seen with the high value. You're telling men to make more money to get women and to have options. So a lot of women that wanted high value men, he told a lot of women off the rip, that man has options. That means he's going to cheat. And you have to accept that because he makes so much money, he got the option to do it. And for women that wanted that lifestyle, you knew what you was getting. That's why I never understood when women would complain about, oh no, I'm not going to have a man cheat, this and that. But the point of it was, like, That was going to be the option. If you didn't want that type of man, why would you, necessarily deal with that type of person? Because the option is this. If you didn't want a man who didn't want that type of option, like in that relationship, don't deal with him. Because if he cheats, you already knew this was coming. That's the whole thing. With I look at a lot of times with divorce, you've been with a person for so long, how you literally don't know this person or know their ways or the way they move. Because to a degree, people can hide it real well. That's the veil of relationships. I can show you the persona, whatever you want me to be. I seen this woman, she said this in the video and it was real cool. She said that I never tell a person as a man what type of man I'm looking for, because he will cater himself to be that person. Same thing for women. Women, you tell a woman man tells a woman what type of woman he wants. She will literally cater herself to be that type of woman as well, only because what? She literally wants to push a narrative to say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm this. You like a woman that cooks. It's funny how you mash yourself not knowing how to cook. It's crazy to agree. I always talk about this too. The first time I ever cooked for my wife, I cooked jambalaya. I cooked the ground beef, cooked the sausage, shrimp over the stove, seasoned it up real good. You know, and I got into paprika, like smoked paprika now. That's a game changer. Like I used to just use regular paprika, and somebody told me about smoked paprika. I'm like, what the difference? And when I tasted it, I was like, game changer with cooking. I'm like, woo. But basically, I cooked that with some rice, rice and beans, and my wife was like, who cooked this? Oh yeah, I cook. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I be making Thanksgiving dinner too. My wife, she be trying to play me. She be like, I like your cooking better because you cook. Nah, you just not trying to cook. Because she know majority of the time when I get in the kitchen, I take over the kitchen. But the only thing she be mad at, because I don't wash as I go. I just cook, and if I need another pot, I'll wash that pot just to use that same pot. But other than that, I don't wash as I go. I fix all my food, then I do the dishes later. I'm like, when I cook, I'm ready to cook, lay it down, eat, then go wash later, whatever. After, I don't, chilled out. But yeah, it comes to it to where when I first cooked that meal for her, she was like, you can't, who cooked this? Even the kids was like, yeah, mama, he cooked it. We seen him cook it. He got the stuff and he cooked this and all that. And she was like, you ain't cooked this. I'm like, yes, I did. I think the only thing I didn't cook was the rotisserie I got from, I think, Walmart or Publix or one of them. I got a rotisserie chicken and just chopped it up. And when I seasoned up the meat, I just put it in there too. But like one of my coworkers told me about that jambalaya, how to make it with all the different meats and stuff. Yeah, but she was like, man, she was like, my baby daddy, he didn't know how to do nothing. The best thing he knew how to cook was the strawberry shortcake. And I bust out laughing. I was like, that ain't nothing. All it is just strawberries, whipped cream, and the cake itself. And she was like, I said, did he even make the cake? She like, nah, he bought the cake. I said, so what did he make? Because you put whipped cream on top and you chop the strawberries up, and you might have the what do they call, like the preserved strawberry in the jar. So I'm like, essentially he didn't really make anything. And she was like, yeah. I say, so he don't know how to cook. But yeah, man, I enjoy cooking. I like cooking because when I was young, I learned how to cook with my great grandma. You know, and that's like the biggest thing. Like, I get joy in cooking. I get joy, like even cleaning around the house. I'm gonna get off. I keep saying I'm gonna get off here, but yeah, even cleaning around my house, I clean. I cook. I clean. When was it? The day before when I did a live about the Montgomery thing. I came home, cooked some lamb chops on the grill, cooked some kale with some smoked neck bones, and had some corn. And what else we had? Oh yeah, mashed potatoes. My wife wanted mashed potatoes, so she got mad because I didn't peel the mashed potatoes before I put them in there. And I'm like, you don't know the secret? And she was like, what are you talking about? So I boiled the potatoes, let them boil a little bit longer, took the skin, ran some water over them, and just took the skin and just rubbed it off. April, how you doing there? I was like, you don't know how to do that? And she just looked at me like, oh. I'm like, you do that. You get your sour cream, whatever, your milk, and put it in there, pepper, whatever, or you can let the other people season up the way they want, but we don't use salt like that, and go for what you know. We use a lot of times the no salt season, but yeah, I know how to cook. I know how to cook. Like, my cousin showed me how to make her famous dressing, and a lot of people, they be trying to act like dressing. Sweet potato pie. I don't know. My cousin, her sweet potato pie used to be off the chain. Like, we be having to fight each other. Like, but my great grandma pecan pie, cause she had a pecan tree in her front yard. Whew. Like, we used to get my great grandma used to have us out there about to fight each other. Like, I'm talking about, as soon as the plates get done, we over there cutting the dessert before we gonna make the main course, because if you don't eat fast, you're not getting none of that pecan pie. So you had to make a small plate, get your pecan pie, then come back. Like, my grandma, it got so crazy. We were little kids. My grandma made everybody their own pie. I'm talking about, this how crazy it was in the house. My grandma made me, my two younger, my two brothers, one older, one younger, and my granddaddy. Made all four of us our own pie now. Own pie. And then as soon as whoever ate that pie first, they'll be taking little baby slices off other people's pie. I'll be like, man, I used to take my pie, put it in aluminum foil, wrap it up in like 3 grocery bags, and then I put crazy knots on there. And then they be like, well, how you gonna open that with all them knots and this and that on there? I was like, watch this. I just go get a knife, slit the bag, pull my pie out. And then I was like, dang, I could have did that. But then when it come back to it, I always tie it in the knot. So if somebody mess with my bag, I know by looking at the bag before I open it. But I'm going to get off of here. Enough talk with the talk. Like I said, have a conversation with your family members. Have a conversation with your significant others, and know that, be open. Don't be critical when they come at you crazy, because if you want the conversation, you got to have the conversation. Some people don't like the real conversation. I've told my wife sometimes, I was like, I can't stand this that you do. I don't like this. I say, you get on my nerves, but at the same time, this is the truth, And my wife used to get on me about lying a lot of times, and I tell her, I say, a lot of times I lie because I really don't want to tell you the truth, because I know it's going to hurt you. And a lot of times I don't, really truly be honest to you because you can't take it. Oh, I can take it. I say, so if I tell you I'm going to a party with my friend, and my friend ended up coming there with his girlfriend and her friend, and we all there at the party kicking it, and everybody think me and the girl go together, how you gonna look at that? Well, he know you got a girlfriend. Even when I was married, he know you married. Why he bring her? Why her friend bring somebody for you? They didn't bring nobody for me. That person came because they wanted to go to a party and kick it too. It just so happened it played like that. She had so much going on in her head, like she couldn't understand, like, what's going on. And I always tell her, when I first got with her, and I seen she had a lot of issues going on in her past relationships, the number one thing I always told my wife, and I was always upfront with her, is this: I can deal with the stuff that happened in my past and don't bring it to this relationship. The question is, can you? Because whatever that guy or whoever guy you mess with treated you wrong, I'm not that guy, so I don't want you to bring it over here. And that was a big issue, And she had to realize that, it was laid down like that because I'm not the other dude. Don't compare me to nobody else, and that's the thing. And that's why a lot of times I would tell her, I say, from now on, if I start telling you the truth and don't lie, don't come at me looking like I'm foul. You know, because there's plenty of times I go out and hang with people. Like when I was married, I had to stop hanging out with a couple of my friends because I'm like, y'all be putting me in situations, dude. And like, I'm not trying to be like that. You know, I know how to get myself out of it, just not even deal in the first place. You know, I socialize and talk with somebody, but I let every woman or person that I'm around that's a woman, let them know, hey, I'm married. I ain't going nowhere. You know, even a lot of women used to hit on me so back in the day, and it was just point blank. I just told them straight up, yeah, I'm married. Like, I'm not going nowhere. And a lot of them, they always say, man, you a good dude. You don't want no friends. They used to hit me with the man line, like, yeah, you don't want no friend. You can't have no friend. Because a good dude is hard to find. And honestly, they like, one woman told me, I'd rather share a good man than deal with a man that ain't worth nothing. And I'm like, dang, kudos to you, but I'm not that dude. You know, I don't got time to be cheating. Cheating takes time, take a lot of energy and effort. I just don't have time for that. So it's a no for me. They respect it, but at the same time, you know, if I was to tell my wife that, she'd be like, never talk to that person, don't be around that person. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, it's not that serious. I know how to handle this situation. So give me that grace and just know that I'm not going nowhere. I'm not dealing with nobody. You know, but the point of it is that that situation in the past that gets you to where, man, they're gonna be like this person. Oh, they're gonna treat me like that. I don't got time for that. I always tell my wife, I ain't got time to be playing out here. I don't have time to be playing out here. You know, if I got to that situation, I might as well don't even get married. I might as well don't have a relationship because it gets to that point. It's too crazy anyway. But I keep saying this, I gotta go. But shout out to everybody. Once again, you know what I always say when I get off here. I ain't did no money talk today. I ain't talked about life insurance. I'll say that for Monday. I might go a little short live tomorrow. But once again, you know what I always say. We here and we gone. Appreciate everybody for coming through.